In this lesson, we'll explore how data flows through components, why prop drilling becomes a problem, and how composition creates cleaner, more maintainable code. Let's start with a common situation. Imagine our application has a navigation menu, and a deeply nested component called navItem needs access to a theme value. The theme originates in app, but navItem sits several layers down the component tree. To get the value there, we pass it through page, then layout, then sidebar, until it finally reaches navItem. This pattern is called prop drilling. The data itself isn't the problem. The problem is that every intermediate component becomes responsible for forwarding data it doesn't actually use. Take a closer look at the chain. Page accepts the theme prop. Layout accepts the theme prop. Sidebar accepts the theme prop. But none of them actually use it. They're simply passing it along to the next component. This creates unnecessary coupling. If we rename the prop, every layer must be updated. If navItem needs additional data later, every intermediary component must also change. As component trees grow deeper, maintenance becomes increasingly difficult. React provides a powerful solution through a special prop called children. Whenever you place content between opening and closing component tags, React passes that content through the children prop. The wrapper component doesn't need to know what the content is. It simply decides where to render it. The parent decides what goes inside. The wrapper decides how it's displayed. This pattern is known as composition. Instead of passing data through every layer, we compose components together like building blocks. Now let's compare the two approaches. With prop drilling, each component decides what comes next and forwards data through the chain. Every layer acts as a middleman. With composition, the top-level component builds the entire structure. Page, layout, and sidebar simply render their children. They don't know anything about theme. Only navItem receives the value it actually needs. The result is cleaner code, simpler interfaces, and components with fewer responsibilities. React 19 introduces another important simplification. Before React 19, components that needed a ref had to use forward ref. This required extra wrapper code and special handling. Now, ref behaves like any other prop. You can destructure it directly from the props object alongside everything else. No wrapper, no special API, just a regular component function. This makes component code easier to read and easier to teach. Modern React components follow a simple model. They receive props. That includes regular props, children, and even ref. They return elements, and they compose naturally with other components. A React component is simply a function that receives data and returns UI. When you combine props for data flow, children for composition, and React 19's simplified ref handling, you get components that are predictable, reusable, and easy to maintain.